Hello, this is Miss D again. Today we will be exploring how we can use place value discs to help us determine the equivalence of tenths and hundredths. Let's get started by looking at slide A. So look at the model below. What do you notice? What does this make you wonder? Go ahead and answer those two questions. When you're ready, unpause. So what did you notice? Did you notice that there were 10 hundredth discs? Did you notice that those 10 hundredths were grouped together? Did you notice that there was only 1/10 disc? What did you wonder? Did you wonder if the arrow is trying to show us that 10 hundredths can become 1/10? Did you wonder if you added 2 more hundredths, what would that be equal to? Great questions there. All right, let's go ahead to the next slide. So let's turn to slide B, and we're going to look at the model below, and we're going to answer those two questions again. What do you notice? What does this make you wonder? So go ahead and pause, and when you're ready, unpause. All right, so what did you notice? Did you notice that the number line starts at 0 and ends at 3/10? Did you notice that the number line is broken up into tenths? Did you notice that the dots represent hundredths? Did you notice that there are 2 jumps of a tenth and 1 jump of 4 hundredths? What did you wonder? Did you wonder why 24 hundredths is equal to 24 hundredths, right? Writing them both different ways, how they're equal? Did you wonder what would happen if you added 1 whole to the number? Those are some great questions. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So for this slide, we're going to be visiting the Ddox tool. So if you go ahead and click on this link here, this hyperlink, it'll take you to the Ddox tool. So we're going to create a number greater than 12 hundredths. So let's go ahead and create a number that's greater than 12 hundredths. Now, when you're at this tool, remember to click on this option here. We want tenths to one, thousandths to one. So we're going to click it, and now it is set up for decimals. So we want a number that's greater than 12 hundredths. So I'm going to go ahead and make a number that's greater than 12 hundredths. So right now I have 4 hundredths. That's not greater than 12 hundredths, so I have to keep going. Oops. So now I have 8 hundredths. Okay. Now I have 12 hundredths. Okay, and I'm choosing to show 16 hundredths. So I know 16 hundredths is greater than 12 hundredths, right? So what you want to do is you want to take a snapshot here of your work. You might also want to show that you have some tenths in here, right? If I can rename this. Let's go back to the slides, and we'll explore this a little bit more. So here is my little screenshot of my work here. So I have the 16 hundredths, but I notice that I have 10 hundredths here. And if I have 10 hundredths, if you think about your base 10 block there, I have shaded 16, which is 1 whole column and 6 in the second column. So I do have 1/10. So I can show this as 1/10 plus the 6 that are left over, the 6 hundredths that are left over, and it gives me 16 hundredths. Or I can write it as a decimal as 0.16. So I read it as a 2-digit decimal, a 2-digit number, 16, and then I read the place value of the rightmost number. So 16, the 6 is in the hundredths place, so I read it 16 hundredths. So what is the number that is represented in my model? The number represented in the model is 16 hundredths. Can you make a tenth? Circle it on the diagram if you can, and we've done that. We've circled the group of 10. So a group of 10 moves us to the left column. Just like if I had 10 $1 bills, I would have to write that 1 in the tens place. So a tenth can be represented by putting a circle around 10 hundredths. 10 hundredths is equal to 1/10. And then it wants us to use a number bond to represent this decimal number. So our decimal number is right here, 0.16, again is read as 16 hundredths. And I can break it apart into 1/10 because I have a 1 in the tenths place and I have a 6 in the hundredths place. So I can break it apart as 1/10 and 6 hundredths. Let's go take a look at another problem. Let's go on to the next slide, slide E. And here it says use either the scribble tool or the website to draw a place value disk to represent 5 hundredths. So using that Ddox tool, you could go ahead and show 5 hundredths. And it wants you to write the number as a decimal. And then it wants you to use those place value disks to add 2/10ths to this number. What number do you have now? How do you represent this number using the place value disks? So go ahead and answer these questions, and when you're ready, you could go ahead and unpause. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this sample from student A. So what do you notice? What do you wonder? Does this work look similar to yours? And also answer that last question, which is what does this make you think about decimals? Go ahead and answer those questions. When you're ready, you can go ahead and unpause. So what did you notice? Did you notice that they showed place value disks to represent 5 hundredths, and they wrote the 5 in the hundredths place here in the decimal? What did you wonder? Did you wonder if they knew that 2/10ths was equivalent to 20 hundredths? What else did you wonder? Did you wonder if they knew that 2 groups of 5 100ths would be equal to 1/10? Right? If we had 2 groups of 5 hundredths, so if I was to draw 5 more place value disks, now we would have here 10 hundredths, which would be equal to 1/10. So if we think about it, how many 5 hundredths do we have in 25 hundredths? That would be we have 5 groups of those 5 hundredths, right? What does this make you think about decimals? Well, it does make us think that parts of a whole can be represented in both fractional form and decimal form. Right? We have some numbers that are in the tenths place, some numbers that are in the hundredths place, but we can rename those 2-digit decimals as all hundredths too, right? Great job. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So for these questions, I'm going to have you guys work on this with me together, and then slide K, I'd like you to try it on your own. So here it says circle hundredths to compose as many tenths as you can. Complete the number sentence, represent the number with a number bond. So we're going to go ahead and do that first step. So we're going to go ahead and circle hundredths to compose as many tenths. And we said we need 10 hundredths to make a 10. So here is our group of 10 hundredths, which equals to 1/10. And then we have some remaining, right? We have 4 hundredths left over here. So if we go ahead and we kind of look at what we have here, we have 14 hundredths, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 hundredths. But it's really showing 1/10 and then the 4 remaining hundredths. So if we take our decimal here that we have, so we have 14 hundredths, it's made up of 1/10, right? That's why we have the 1 in the tenths place, 1/10, and then the 4 hundredths. I'd like you now to pause and complete slide K. When you're ready, you can meet me at slide L. So this is slide L, and just like in the previous exercise, we're going to do slide L together, and then you'll go on ahead to slide M and complete it on your own. So let's take a look at this slide here. So it says use both tenths and hundredths place value disks to represent each number. Write the equivalent number in decimal, fraction, and unit form. So if we're going to be using those place value disks here, for this problem, it's 4 hundredths. So that means that we would have 4 disks and each of their value would be 100th. And for the second problem, here we would have 1300ths. So it would be made up of 1/10 and 300ths. Okay, and we would write these decimals as 400ths, so the 4 would be in the hundredths place, and then this one we'd read it as 1300ths, right? We have 400ths, we have no tenths, but here we have 1/10 and 300ths. So if we're thinking back to the previous exercise where we kind of decomposed our decimal there, again, we have 1/10, right? The 1 in the tenths place, and then we also have the 3 in the hundredths place. So it's made up of 1/10 and 300ths. Go ahead and complete the final exercise. Well, we've come to the end of this video segment. I hope this video helped you understand how place value discs help us determine the equivalence of tenths and hundredths. Great job. See you next time.